Hi. I'm talking to Robert Shelburne, who's the Chief Economist for the Europe. What was it again, Robert?
It's one of the 5 regional commissions of the United Nations. The one for Europe is the Economic Commission for Europe in Geneva, Switzerland.
And you're the Chief Economist. And you've given a wonderful keynote presentation here about the economic recovery, etc., etc. Now, I'd like to just ask you 3 questions. The first one is you've mentioned, well, first of all, you mentioned the Great Recession as a term for what we've been going through. And secondly, you've conceptualized the recovery as being a square root recovery. Now, could you explain that in a little bit more detail?
Just that we've experienced a very major downturn, the largest downturn since the Second World War. And although we've experienced since April a fairly quick initial rebound, it's likely that that rebound is going to slow down and kind of even out. And especially in advanced economies, it could really be, 2 years before we're back to where we were before the crisis, especially in terms of unemployment and so forth. So that there was a large drop. There's been a rebound, a partial rebound, and now from here on out, a much slower recovery.
So we're looking at a recovery that's going to take longer, and it's going to be slower, and then it's going to get better. So we're going to get back to square one again, eventually.
Sooner or later, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you mentioned also one of the bigger problems at the moment is the fact that cash is not as easily available for investment as it was, and that particularly affects the big infrastructure developments like like hotels and hotel groups, etc. Could you give me your opinion about that?
Obviously, this is a financial crisis, so the financial system has been under stress. Initially, there was a concern about the solvency of that system. That seems to have been resolved now, but the current problem is that bank lending still seems to be dysfunctional. So enterprises basically that need to raise funds, not only new companies, but existing companies with large debt, are going to have problems raising the capital that they need. And that will obviously present a number of problems for the industry. Also, an aspect of this crisis was that it was in many ways a real estate crisis, and commercial real estate, which would obviously affect hotels and so forth, is going to be part of that problem as well. So both the lack of financing and potential problems in the more general commercial real estate market suggest some difficult times ahead.
I'm sure there'll be
Yes.
difficult times ahead, but also there's opportunities, and you did mention a number of opportunities in your presentation. One of them was the fact that there is a growing middle class in the emerging economies. Could you talk about that a little bit more?
All right. First of all, in other words, I think that some of the traditional customer base is likely to decline from the advanced economies because of the destruction in wealth. These people will not be able to travel as much as they want. But on the other hand, economic growth should recover quite well in the developing and emerging markets. And in those countries that are growing quite rapidly, there's a rapidly growing middle class. And they should become potential consumers for travel as well. And it's sort of the job of the tourism industry to ensure that this rapidly growing middle class actually become customers for international tourism.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
No, I'm very optimistic in the long run for the industry. I think the industry has very bright prospects in the very long term, but the next year or two could be a difficult period of time.
Any other challenges that you can foresee over the next couple of years?
Well, the world faces major problems in addressing a number of things, such as climate change and so forth. And those issues, obviously, every industry has to determine how they are going to participate in as being part of the solution for that industry. So travel obviously it gets a lot of bad press in the sense of the carbon produced by air travel and so forth. So they're going to have to come up with a way to address those issues.
So the biggest challenge is money availability, square root recovery, and the carbon issue. But at the end of the day, we're all optimists, I hope.
I believe that summarizes it well, yes.
Thank you very much indeed.